Park Junho stared at his phone screen and felt his heart sink lower than it had ever gone before. Every apartment listing in the city showed prices that made his eyes water and his wallet cry out in pain. He had been searching for 3 weeks now, and nothing seemed possible on his engineer salary. The company had transferred him here with only 2 weeks' notice, and he was running out of time. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself as he scrolled through another page of listings that cost more than his entire monthly paycheck. Then something caught his eye and made him stop scrolling immediately. A 3-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood with rent so low that Junho checked the listing 5 times to make sure he was reading it correctly. 2 roommates already lived there, and they were looking for a 3rd person to share the space. The photos showed a clean and modern apartment with large windows and plenty of natural light. Everything looked perfect, except for one strange detail. The photos of the common areas showed no faces, and the roommate profiles contained almost no personal information. Junho shrugged his shoulders and figured they were just private people who valued their personal space. He sent a message to the listing and received a response within minutes. The reply was polite but formal and asked only basic questions about his work schedule and his habits at home. Did he cook his own meals? Did he stay up late? Did he have any problems with roommates who kept different hours? All normal questions, Junho thought to himself. He answered everything honestly, and within an hour he received approval to move in. The lease agreement arrived in his email, and he signed it, without hesitation, because he was desperate and the price was too good to pass up. The move-in date was set for the following Saturday. When Saturday arrived, Junho loaded his belongings into a small rental truck and drove across the city to his new home. He parked outside a tall apartment building that looked exactly like the photos and felt a wave of relief wash over him. Finally, he would have a stable place to live. He grabbed 2 boxes from the truck and walked to the elevator with excitement building in his chest. The apartment was on the 12th floor, and he watched the numbers climb higher and higher until the doors opened with a soft chime. Apartment 1207 stood at the end of the hallway, and Junho balanced his boxes carefully as he knocked on the door. The door swung open, and Junho nearly dropped everything he was carrying. Standing before him was a woman unlike any he had ever seen. She stood nearly 2 meters tall, with skin that held a faint blue tint like the sky just before sunset. Her features were elegant and sharp, and her eyes were a deep violet color that seemed to look straight through him. She wore simple earth clothing, but something about the way she held herself was clearly not human. "You must be the new tenant," she said in a voice that was calm and measured. "I am Vela." Junho blinked several times, and his brain struggled to process what he was seeing. Before he could respond, another figure appeared behind Vela and peered around her with obvious curiosity. This one was shorter and had features that reminded Junho of a cat golden eyes with vertical pupils, small pointed ears that twitched with interest, and skin covered in a fine layer of fur the color of autumn leaves. "Is this the human?" the second one asked with excitement clear in her voice. "He looks exactly like the photos online. I am Kira." Junho stood frozen in the doorway with his mouth hanging open and his boxes growing heavier by the second. They were aliens. His new roommates were aliens, and nobody had thought to mention this incredibly important detail. Vela tilted her head slightly and studied his reaction with scientific interest. "You did not know," she observed. "The listing did not make our species clear?" "No," Junho managed to say. "It definitely did not mention that part." Kira's ears drooped slightly, and she looked at Vela with worry in her golden eyes. "He will leave now," she said quietly. "They always leave when they find out." Vela nodded slowly as if she had expected this outcome. "We understand if you wish to cancel the arrangement," she said. "Most humans are not comfortable sharing living space with non-human species. We will return your deposit immediately." Junho looked at the two alien women standing before him, and then looked down at the heavy boxes in his arms. He thought about the 3 weeks of searching and the dozens of apartments he could not afford. He thought about sleeping in his car for another week while he looked for something else. Then he thought about something his grandmother used to tell him when he was young. Home is not about the walls around you, but the people inside them. "Where should I put my stuff?" he asked. Both aliens stared at him with expressions of complete shock. "You are staying?" Kira asked with disbelief coating every word. Junho shrugged and shifted the weight of his boxes. "The rent is good and the apartment looks nice. I do not see a problem here. But we are not human," Vela said slowly, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "And I am not a chef, but I still cook my own meals," Junho replied. "Are you going to show me my room, or should I just pick one myself?" Kira let out a sound that might have been a laugh and grabbed one of his boxes with enthusiasm. "This way," she exclaimed. "Your room is the one with the window facing east. The morning light is very beautiful." Vela continued to watch Junho with an expression he could not read. Something flickered in her violet eyes, surprise perhaps, or maybe something deeper. "You are a very strange human," she said finally. Junho grinned and stepped inside his new home. "I have been told that before," he admitted. "Now please help me carry the rest of my things, because I have a lot of boxes and these stairs are going to destroy my legs," for the first time since he arrived. Vela smiled. The first week of living together brought more surprises than Junho could have imagined. It started on the second morning when Vela found him awake and making coffee at 6 in the morning. She had been walking to the bathroom when she spotted him in the kitchen, and she stopped so suddenly that she nearly fell over. "You are awake," she said with alarm in her voice. "Did something disturb your sleep cycle? Are you unwell?" Junho poured hot water over his coffee grounds and yawned. "No, I always wake up at this time. I have to be at work by 8. Vela's violet eyes widened with what looked like horror. "But you went to sleep only 6 hours ago. That is not nearly enough time for proper neural recovery." 6 hours is pretty normal for humans, Junho explained while stirring his coffee. "Sometimes I only get 4 or 5 hours and I still function fine." Vela pressed her hand against the wall as if she needed support. "Your species is terrifying," she whispered. On the third day, Junho came home from work to find Kira sitting on the kitchen floor with tears streaming down her furry cheeks. Empty containers from his leftover dinner sat scattered around her, and she looked up at him with absolute devastation in her golden eyes. "I have committed a terrible crime," she wailed. "I ate your food storage without permission. On my world, this offense carries serious social consequences. I will accept whatever punishment you decide." Junho looked at the empty containers and then at the crying alien on his kitchen floor. He had been saving that food for lunch tomorrow, but the sight of Kira so upset made his heart ache. "Hey, it is okay," he said gently as he knelt beside her. "It was just some leftover rice and vegetables. I can make more, but I consumed resources that belong to you," Kira insisted. "I violated the sacred boundaries of food ownership." Junho stood up and opened the refrigerator. "How about I make you a sandwich and we call it even?" Kira stared at him as if he had just offered her a planet. "You would give me more of your food after I stole from you?" "Sharing food is what roommates do," Junho said with a smile. "Now, do you like your bread toasted or soft?" That evening, Junho decided to cook dinner for everyone as a way to establish some household bonding. He prepared a simple Korean dish with rice, vegetables, and seasoned meat. The smells filled the apartment and brought both aliens to the kitchen with curiosity. He served the plates proudly and watched as Viola and Kira took their first bites. Both of them immediately started coughing and reaching for water. "What substance is attacking my taste receptors?" Vela gasped between gulps of water. Is this a human weapon? Kira wheezed. Are you trying to assassinate us? Junho quickly realized his mistake. That was just a little bit of garlic and pepper, he explained. I actually made this very mild compared to what I normally eat. Mild? Vela repeated with disbelief. Human cuisine is chemical warfare. From that day forward, Junho learned to cook 2 versions of every meal, one extremely bland version for his alien roommates and 1 normal version for himself. As the days passed, Junho began to notice small things about his roommates that concerned him. Both Vela and Kira seemed to struggle with basic physical tasks around the apartment. Lifting heavy objects made them strain, and climbing the stairs left them breathing hard. One evening, he watched Kira struggle to reach a bowl on the top shelf, and suddenly, everything made sense. Your home planets have lighter gravity than Earth, do they not? He asked. Kira nodded while still stretching uselessly toward the bowl. Earth gravity is approximately 1.3 times stronger than my homeworld. Everything here feels so heavy all the time. Junho did not say anything more that night. But over the next few days, both aliens noticed changes around the apartment. Heavy items mysteriously moved to lower shelves. Furniture got rearranged so that commonly used objects required less reaching and lifting. The step stool appeared in the kitchen without anyone mentioning it. Vela watched these changes with growing fascination. She had been sent to Earth to study human behavior and write reports for her government. But nothing in her training had prepared her for someone like Junho. She started carrying a small recording device everywhere and making notes whenever he did something she found interesting, which was often. Subject displays a logical kindness without expectation of reciprocal benefit. She murmured into her device one evening. He adjusted the apartment temperature to better suit our biological needs, despite preferring warmer environments himself. Motivation unclear. Further observation required. Kira had no such scientific approach. She simply followed Junho around the apartment like a curious shadow, asking endless questions about everything he did. Why do humans drink bean water every morning? Why do you stare at the glowing rectangle for hours? Why do you make those strange noises when you sleep? What is the purpose of folding fabric into smaller shapes? Junho answered every question with patience. Coffee helped humans wake up. The rectangle was a television for entertainment. The noises were called snoring. Folding clothes kept them organized. The neighbors in the building had started to notice the unusual living arrangement. Junho heard them whispering in the hallways and saw them staring when he walked past. Some gave him looks of confusion, while others seemed almost angry. Does it bother you? Vela asked one evening when she saw him ignoring a particularly hostile glare from the woman next door. The judgment from your own species? Junho shrugged and unlocked their apartment door. People judge things they do not understand, he said calmly. That is their problem, not mine. Now come inside before dinner gets cold. Vela followed him into the apartment and added another note to her research. Subject demonstrates remarkable resistance to social pressure. Prioritizes household harmony over species-based tribal expectations. Hypothesis. This human may be defective. Alternative hypothesis. This human may represent an evolved form of his species. Further study essential. Kira appeared from the hallway with excitement on her face. Junho, I learned how to use the coffee machine today. Would you like some bean water? Junho smiled warmly at both of his strange and wonderful roommates. I would love some bean water, he said. Thank you, Kira. Maybe this living situation was unusual. Maybe the neighbors would never understand. But as Junho sat down with his alien roommates for another evening together, he realized something important. For the first time since moving to this city, he actually felt at home. 1 month passed and life in apartment 1207 had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Junho woke early every morning and made coffee for himself and bland tea for his roommates. He went to work during the day, while Vela typed research reports in her room and Kira managed interstellar shipping schedules from her computer. In the evenings, they gathered in the living room and shared meals together like a strange but happy little family. Junho had learned that Vela preferred quiet evenings with minimal conversation, while Kira needed constant stimulation and entertainment. He balanced both needs by playing soft music during dinner and then putting on action movies that Kira loved and Vela pretended to hate but secretly enjoyed. Everything felt peaceful and normal until the evening that changed everything. Junho was in the kitchen preparing dinner when he heard strange sounds coming from outside. At first he thought it was just traffic or construction noise. But then the sounds grew louder and he recognized what they were. Chanting, angry chanting from many voices. He walked to the window and looked down at the street 12 floors below. His stomach dropped at what he saw. A crowd of perhaps 50 people had gathered outside their building. They carried signs with hateful messages about aliens and shouted slogans demanding that non-humans leave Earth. Some wore masks to hide their faces, while others proudly showed their anger to the world. "Go back to your own planets," they screamed. "Humans first. Earth for humans." Junho heard a small sound behind him and turned to see Kira standing in the hallway. Her golden eyes were wide with terror, and her entire body trembled like a leaf in a storm. Her ears pressed flat against her head, and her tail wrapped tightly around her legs. "They found us," she whispered. "They know we are here." Vela appeared beside Kira with a face carefully controlled, but her hands shook, despite her efforts to hide them. "On my world, public gatherings like this always lead to violence," she said quietly. "We should hide. We should contact the authorities. We should close the curtains and watch a movie," Junho interrupted calmly. Both aliens stared at him as if he had lost his mind. "Did you not hear them?" Kira asked with panic rising in her voice. "They want us gone. They want to hurt us." Junho walked past them and began pulling the curtains closed across every window in the apartment. His movements were steady and unhurried, as if nothing unusual was happening at all. "They are loud and angry," he admitted. "But they are also standing on a public street where cameras are watching everything. The police will keep them contained. All they can do is yell. How can you be so calm?" Vela demanded. "Your own species is threatening your home." Junho finished with the curtains and turned to face his frightened roommates. His expression was serious, but his voice remained gentle and reassuring. "Those people down there do not speak for my species," he said firmly. "They speak for themselves and their fear, and I will not let their fear infect this home. Now both of you sit down on the couch while I make popcorn." Kira did not move. "What if they come inside? What if they break down the door?" Junho smiled, but there was something different about this smile. Something harder and more dangerous lurked behind his eyes. "Then they will have to go through me first," he said simply. "And I promise you that will not be easy for them." Vela studied him with new intensity. "You speak as if you have experience with violence," she observed. Junho shrugged and walked to the kitchen. "All Korean men complete mandatory military service," he explained while pulling out a bag of popcorn. "I spent 2 years learning how to protect things I care about. Those idiots with their signs do not scare me." The casual way he said those words sent a shiver down Vela's spine. She had read reports about humans being a warrior species from a harsh world, but she had never truly understood what that meant until this moment. This gentleman who cooked them dinner and adjusted shelves for their comfort was also a trained soldier. He moved through life hiding capabilities that could emerge at any moment if needed. Kira slowly uncurled from her terrified posture and looked at Junho with something new in her eyes. You would fight your own kind to protect us. You are my roommates, Junho replied as if that explained everything. We live under the same roof and share the same meals. That makes you my responsibility. Now, stop worrying and pick a movie. He returned to the living room with a bowl of popcorn and settled onto the couch between the two aliens. Outside, the chanting continued, but inside the apartment felt warm and safe. Kira chose an action movie about a human hero saving people from disaster. Normally, Vela would have complained about the unrealistic physics, but tonight she remained silent. 2 hours later, the noise from outside faded away. The protesters grew tired and went home to their own lives. Nothing had happened. No broken windows, no forced entry, no violence. But something had changed inside apartment 1207. When the movie ended, Kira leaned against Junho's shoulder without thinking about it. He did not push her away. Vela sat on his other side, and for once, she had no research notes to make. I have lived on Earth for 3 years, Vela said quietly. This is the first time I have felt truly safe. Same, Kira whispered. I was so afraid when I came to this planet. Everything here is heavy and loud and overwhelming. But right now, I am not afraid at all. Junho put an arm around each of them and stared at the blank television screen. You are safe here, he promised. As long as I am around, nobody will hurt either of you. That is not a hope or a wish. That is a fact. The aliens leaned into his warmth and believed every word. Outside, the streets had gone quiet. Inside, 3 unlikely roommates sat together in comfortable silence. Vela made one final mental note before closing her eyes. Humans were not the fragile species the galaxy believed them to be. They were something far more remarkable, protectors who chose their family not by blood, but by bond. And somehow she and Kira had been chosen by one of the best. The weeks following the protest brought changes that none of them expected. Vela stopped treating Junho as a research subject and started treating him as a friend. She still made observations about human behavior, but now she shared them openly, rather than whispering into her recording device. Her formal manner softened, and sometimes she even made jokes, though her alien sense of humor often left Junho confused. Kira became bolder and more comfortable in her own home. She stopped flinching at loud noises from outside and started exploring human culture with enthusiasm rather than fear. She learned to cook simple earth dishes and proudly served burnt toast to her roommates as if presenting a gourmet meal. Junho accepted the burnt toast every time and ate it with a smile. One evening, Vela found him alone in the living room and sat beside him with unusual hesitation in her movements. I must confess something, she said. When you first arrived, I intended to study you for my government's integration program. You were supposed to be data for my research reports. Junho nodded calmly. I figured that out pretty quickly. You knew? Vela asked with surprise. You were not exactly subtle with your recording device. Junho laughed. But I did not mind. Everyone has reasons for what they do. Vela looked down at her elegant hands. My reports have changed recently. I no longer write about human behavior in general. I write about you specifically. You have become the focus of everything I observe. Should I be worried? Junho asked with amusement. No, Vela replied softly. You should be proud. My government now believes that human-alien cohabitation is possible because of the evidence you have provided. You are changing policies across 3 star systems simply by being yourself. Before Junho could respond, Kira burst into the room with excitement radiating from every whisker. I got promoted at work, she announced. They made me regional coordinator for the entire Eastern Hemisphere. Can you believe it? Both Junho and Vela jumped up to congratulate her. Junho insisted on cooking a special celebration dinner, and Vela offered to help despite having 0 cooking skills. The 3 of them crowded into the small kitchen and made a glorious mess while preparing a feast. That night, they stayed up late talking and laughing and sharing stories from their different worlds. Junho learned that Vela came from a planet of scholars where emotions were considered distractions from intellectual pursuit. He learned that Kira grew up on a trading station where she never had a permanent home until now. Both aliens learned that Junho had no family left on Earth. His parents had passed years ago, and he had no siblings. This apartment and these roommates were all he had. "Then we are your family now," Kira declared fiercely. "The three of us against the universe." Junho did not argue with that. 2 weeks later, everything almost fell apart. Junho woke up one morning with a pounding headache and a throat that felt like sandpaper. His body ached and his skin burned with fever. He stumbled to the bathroom and looked at his pale reflection in the mirror. "Just a cold," he muttered to himself. "I will be fine." He was not fine. By noon, he could barely stand. Vela found him collapsed on the couch with sweat pouring down his face and his breathing shallow and ragged. She screamed, "Kira, come quickly. The human is dying." Kira came running from her room and both aliens stared at Junho with absolute terror in their eyes. "We need to contact medical services," Vela shouted. "We need to quarantine the apartment. We need hazardous material containment. I am calling my homeworld for emergency biological protocols." Kira cried while fumbling with her communication device. "I am just sick," Junho groaned weakly. "It is a common cold. Humans get them all the time." Neither alien listened. They had read reports about diseases and knew that illness often killed members of their species quickly and without mercy. The concept of a minor sickness did not exist in their understanding. What followed was the strangest medical care Junho had ever received. Vela wrapped him in blankets according to Dacian healing traditions, except Dacians were cold-blooded and preferred warmth. So she piled 17 blankets on top of him until he could barely breathe. Kira prepared a mirani, healing soup, which turned out to be mostly raw fish and some kind of fermented plant that smelled like a garbage fire. She insisted he drink the entire bowl. They took turns reading to him from scientific journals because on their worlds, intellectual stimulation was considered essential for recovery. Junho suffered through all of it because their concern was so genuine and their efforts were so earnest. 2 days later, he woke up feeling completely normal. His fever had broken and his strength had returned. He walked into the kitchen and found both aliens slumped over the table, exhausted from staying awake to watch over him. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. Vela and Kira jerked awake and stared at him with disbelief. "You recovered," Vela breathed. "In only 2 days. Without advanced medical intervention. Human immune systems are pretty tough," Junho explained while making coffee. "We evolved on a planet full of diseases and predators. Our bodies learned to fight back quickly." Kira shook her head in amazement. "Your species is terrifying and wonderful in equal measure." That evening, the three of them sat together on the balcony and watched the sun set over the city. The sky turned orange and pink and purple as night approached. "Why are humans like this?" Kira asked softly. "So strong and yet so kind? So dangerous and yet so gentle?" Junho thought about the question for a long moment. "Earth was never easy," he finally said. "Our world tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We had to become strong just to survive. But somewhere along the way we learned that survival alone was not enough. We needed each other. We needed connection and love and family. So we became both warriors who could destroy and protectors who chose to nurture." Vela reached over and took his hand. "Thank you for choosing to nurture us." Kira took his other hand. "We would be lost without you." Junho squeezed both their hands gently and smiled at the darkening sky. "I would be lost without you too," he admitted. More than you know. 3 months had passed since Junho first walked through the door of apartment 1207. The space that once felt like a temporary solution had transformed into something far more precious. Every corner held memories now. The kitchen where they cooked disasters together. The living room where they watched countless movies. The balcony where they shared secrets under starlit skies. Junho found himself smiling every time he came home from work. The sound of Kira singing alien songs in the shower made him laugh. The sight of Vela's research notes scattered across the dining table made him feel warm. These small things had become the foundation of his happiness. Then the email arrived, and everything changed. Junho stared at his computer screen for a long time without moving. The message came from a major engineering firm in another city, a company he had dreamed of working for since university. They offered him a senior position with double his current salary and opportunities for advancement that most engineers never received. It was the perfect job. It was also 3,000 kilometers away. He saved the email without responding and did not mention it to his roommates. But his silence spoke louder than words. Vela noticed immediately that something was wrong. His laughter came slower, and his smile seemed forced. He stared at his phone more often and grew quiet during their evening conversations. Kira noticed too. She started bringing him extra snacks and suggesting his favorite movies, even though she found them boring. Her ears drooped whenever he seemed distracted. Finally, after a week of tension, Junho gathered his courage and told them the truth. "I received a job offer," he said during dinner. "A really good one. Better than anything I ever expected." Vela set down her fork carefully. "Congratulations," she said in her most neutral voice. "That is wonderful news. Where's the job?" Kira asked with dread creeping into her tone. "Another city," Junho admitted. "Far from here. I would have to relocate." The apartment fell into heavy silence. Nobody ate. Nobody spoke. The air itself seemed to grow thick with unspoken emotion. Kira stood up suddenly. "I just remembered I have work to finish," she said with a voice that trembled. "Please excuse me." She hurried to her room and closed the door firmly behind her. Vela remained at the table, but would not meet Junho's eyes. "When do you leave?" she asked. "I have not decided yet," he replied. "I have not accepted the offer." "But you will," Vela said. "It would be illogical not to. Career advancement and financial improvement are rational priorities. We always knew this arrangement was temporary. You owe us nothing." She stood and began clearing dishes with mechanical precision. Her movements were stiff and controlled, but Junho could see her hands shaking. "Vela," he started. "I need to update my research reports," she interrupted. "Please excuse me as well." She disappeared into her room and left Junho sitting alone at the table. For the next 3 days, the apartment felt like a tomb. Kira avoided him by working extra hours. Vela spoke to him only in short, polite sentences. Meals were eaten separately, and the living room remained dark and empty. Junho spent those days thinking harder than he had ever thought before. He thought about his dreams of career success and financial security. He thought about the years he spent working toward professional goals. He thought about everything society told him was important: promotions and salaries and impressive job titles. Then he thought about burnt toast served with pride. He thought about terrible alien soup made with love. He thought about 2 frightened women trusting him to keep them safe. He thought about laughter and movies and quiet evenings on the balcony. He thought about coming home to an empty apartment with no one waiting for him. On the 4th day, Junho made his decision. He called the company and spoke clearly and firmly. "Thank you for the incredible opportunity," he said, "but I must respectfully decline. I have found something here that I cannot leave behind. May I ask what could possibly be more valuable than this position?" the recruiter asked with confusion. Junho smiled. Family, he answered. The most important kind, the kind you choose. He ended the call and sat quietly for a moment. Then he walked to Vela's door and knocked. Go away, please, came her muffled voice. I declined the job, Junho announced. I am staying here. The door flew open and Vela stared at him with violet eyes filled with shock. You did what? I am not going anywhere, he repeated. This is my home. You and Kira are my home. No job is worth losing that. Actual tears from a species that supposedly did not cry rolled down Vela's blue cheeks. Kira's door burst open and she launched herself at Junho with enough force to knock him backward. You are staying? She cried. You chose us over your career? I chose my family, Junho said while hugging her tightly. That is not a difficult choice at all. Viola joined the embrace, and for a long moment the three of them stood together in the hallway, holding on to each other. That evening, they ordered too much food and watched movies until midnight. Kira fell asleep on the couch with her head on Junho's lap. Vela sat beside him reading a book, but kept glancing at him as if making sure he was still there. My research will need to be rewritten, Vela said softly. I have been studying human behavior for years, but I never understood the most important truth until now. What truth is that? Junho asked. Vela looked at her sleeping friend and her human protector with warmth that her species was supposed to be incapable of feeling. Across the galaxy, countless species debate what makes humans special. They point to your physical resilience, your adaptability, your strange biology that lets you survive almost anything. But they are all wrong. The thing that makes humans truly remarkable is simpler than all of that. And what is it? Junho pressed. Vela smiled a genuine smile full of emotion and gratitude. Humans choose to care, she said. Even when logic says they should not. Even when the easier path leads elsewhere. Even when the people they care about are strange aliens from distant stars. Humans choose love over reason, connection over advancement, family over everything else. She leaned against his shoulder and closed her eyes. That is what makes you the most extraordinary species in the universe. Not your strength or your endurance, but your hearts. Junho looked at his two sleeping roommates, his family, and felt more complete than he had ever felt before. Outside the city hummed with life. Inside apartment 1207, a human and two aliens dreamed peaceful dreams together. This was home. This was forever.